Yo, what is up, Bitcoiners, Bitcoin miners, plebs, industry leaders, all of you guys? Welcome back to the Build a Mine podcast. I'm your host, TrevorBello, and today we have the founder of Digital Mining Solutions, Nico Smid, on the podcast. Today, we are going to be discussing his journey through the rabbit hole, as well as his thoughts and opinions on the state of the Bitcoin network today. From there, we're going to be talking about how digital mining solutions came to be and what sets it apart from others who are doing similar things within the network. As we navigate the conversation, I'm sure there's going to be many twists and turns, but I am really excited to bring to the podcast Nico Smid. So let's get into it. But real quick, before we do that, a few words from Bitcoin mining world. Oops.
Join the Mastermind Club, a weekly gathering of Bitcoin miners sharing insights to help you optimize or build your mining business. Our community fosters open discussion and collaboration, connecting you with experts who can help you overcome challenges and find solutions faster. Every other week, we host the Mastermind Deep Dive, where industry leaders delve into the financial, operational, and optimization hurdles faced by miners like you. Brought to you by Bitcoin Mining World.
All right. As always, I've put the QR code down at the bottom of the screen. You can scan that to join the Mastermind community. The show notes will also have the link in the description there. This is a place for anybody who's looking to get into Bitcoin mining but doesn't really know how to start. This is a community of like-minded, open-minded people who, are either in the same position you are or have been in the position you are. So if you're looking to get into Bitcoin mining but don't know where to start, whether you want to be a pleb miner or an industrial miner, join the Mastermind community. It's completely free. I'm in there. I hang out. I talk. That's how I learned most of what I learned. So it's a great opportunity for you. And lastly, before we get into the podcast with Nico, if you're going to be in Irving, Texas this November for Mining Disrupt, I highly recommend that you join the Bitcoin Mining World Happy Hour. It's going to be Wednesday, November 12th, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. CST. It's a great opportunity to mix and mingle with some of the industry leaders, some builders and entrepreneurs, people who are really into Bitcoin mining, people who have been in the space, who are building. Like, if you're trying to network, this is a place to be. Food, drinks, it's going to be a great time. I highly recommend it. I'll be there. So come out, say hi, hang out, and just shoot the shit. So, all right, guys, with that, we're going to get right into the podcast with Nico. All right, and so we are here with Nico Smid. Nico is the founder of Digital Mining Solutions. Nico, thank you for taking the time out of your busy life to spend some time with me today.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we dive straight into Digital Mining Solutions, I like to take the audience on a little bit of a rabbit hole journey of who our guest is. So if you could just give us, a short synopsis of what your background is and then how you got into Bitcoin.
Okay, yeah, sure. So I grew up in the Netherlands, born and raised there in a small village in the northern part of the Netherlands, but lived a big part of my life in Amsterdam. I have a background in economic geography and international business development. I started my career at an NGO as an institutional fundraiser, then moved to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in the Netherlands, where I ran programs and helped companies in setting up their business abroad. So I would work with the embassies in the region. I'm now in Buenos Aires, so in South America, specifically. We would help them go to trade shows, organize trade missions, matchmaking activities, train the companies on how to do business internationally. And it's my best friend who introduced me to Bitcoin. I bought it because number went up. I bought it for the first time on my Coinbase app in early 2017. And it was fascinating to me, like this whole new world of digital coins, let's say. I had my fair share of altcoin trading in the first year. I was very much grasped by all the technical analysis. I did a lot of charts, looking at the charts, and that's also what I apply still in my current work. But after trading quite a bit, which went well during the bull market, a bit less during the bear market, I found out that buying and holding Bitcoin is eventually the best investment of my time and my money. So that's where I switched to, and I got fascinated by Bitcoin because it triggered me to learn about things, right? So through Bitcoin, I learned about what money really is. I mean, growing up in the Netherlands, I never asked that question to myself. It's just there and it works. I also learned about macroeconomics and how to invest. Like it triggered me to learn about so many aspects in life, let's say. So I always found it very interesting, and I wanted to do something in the Bitcoin space, but I never knew what or how. Because I'm not a developer, I don't know much about programming. But it was until 2021 when I invested in mining that I discovered, wow, this is actually an industry where I can apply my skills. It was a very fast growing industry, a lot of new businesses, a lot of opportunities to set up new businesses. So I thought, okay, this is where I can apply my skills, and I I decided to start digital mining solutions. So.
Okay, well that's a great overview. We got a little
Yeah.
bit of background. You started in 2017, just kind of buying it, trading it. I am curious to hear your thoughts on like buying and trading. Like when you first decided like Bitcoin buy and hold strategy is the way to go, were you dabbling in other altcoins and you kind of just figured out that, hey, this one has the most foundational principles that I understand and I recognize? Or was there something else that clicked for you?
Well, I was always trading to get more Bitcoin. So that's principle I understood from the beginning. If it doesn't outperform Bitcoin, then it's better just to buy a Bitcoin. So my trading strategy was always alts against Bitcoin, let's say.
Uh-huh.
But I just saw that Bitcoin was superior in many ways, and I think the proof of work is a big part of that, right? That connection with the real world, and the integration we're now seeing in energy systems and other businesses. Like it's just fascinating how and how many aspects Bitcoin touches upon these real life aspects, let's say.
Yeah.
Back in 2017, I don't know if you were around, but there were many ICOs and were many ideas for coins and for blockchain applications, which all made sense at the moment, but then looking back, many of these projects went to zero, and there was a good reason for it because many of these applications didn't really need a blockchain or So
Yeah, they put a beautiful wrapper on a piece of garbage underneath, and you open up that wrapper and you realize that it's just processed sugars and stuff that you really don't need. So I wasn't here in 2017, so I really came in during the NFT boom in 22. That's kind of when I started to get involved in it. For you though, in 2017, did you come in during the run up of 2017, or did you come in during the like downturn?
No, it was the first part of 2017. So before the big boom, let's say, but in the run up.
So I'm curious, after 2017, did you have the conviction to like really hold through that downturn, or was it something that like got you in, like, were you filled with anxiety when the price started dipping, or were you convicted at that point?
No, of course I was I was like, where's this gonna end, But
Yeah.
I also sold off a big part and bought back later. So
Okay.
I learned a lot about the cycles, and that's also what I did in the last bear market, like when Bitcoin went down in 2020, 2021. Yeah, was it 21? Yeah. That's where I also started scaling out and then scaling in when price started looking really good. So I obviously like to hold, but I also try to play the cycles a bit if they still exist, you know, like.
Yeah. So on that point, do you think cycles still exist? I mean, I don't have an opinion either way.
I just gave some. I did 2 master classes about it, and my new newsletter that's coming out tomorrow is also about this. Yeah, it remains to be seen. There's signals that say that the cycle is dead, right? I think the institutional buying is has a big influence, of course, because many of these institutional players they they buy for a longer term, but also they allocate a smaller percentage of their portfolio, so it's gonna move their overall portfolio in less of a aggressive manner, let's say up and down. But also the halving cycles, right? Like always the argument was that the supply shock has an impact on price because there's less new supply coming to market. If demand stays the same, price goes up. But right now, almost 95% of all the bitcoins are mined already, so that supply shock becomes less and less.
Yeah. No,
but
I
do
get it.
I do think we'll see a good run up still. There's many signals that's that can argue for that because the ETFs and corporate buying is outpacing the newly mined Bitcoin on a daily basis, and you see these exchange reserves going down. So if retail comes back, then there's going to probably going to be a squeeze on the exchanges. So there's many of these indicators that show that the demand is higher, than the supply, and my expectation is that the price will still catch up.
Yeah, so this is an interesting thing. If you spend any time on Bitcoin X, Bitcoin Twitter at all, you hear two sides of the story. You hear one side of the story is like, oh, we're going to 250,000, and you hear one side saying, well, we're gonna drop below 100K and we're not coming back. So I am a buy and a holder. I know that the price is going up over the long term, and I don't care if we get to 250 this cycle. I know that eventually we're getting to 250 and a million in years down the road. But what are your thoughts and opinions on where the Bitcoin network is today, like price wise? Do you think that we're starting to see the downturn, or do you still think that we're building up pressure?
Yeah, so I think we'll still see. There's no, I haven't seen much, no indicators. I would say that indicate that we're in a bear market. So I do still think there's upside, and that we're still in that bull market. But where price I will go, I don't know, and I don't care much. But what I did learn along this way, since 2017, is that in 2017 I had an amount of Bitcoin that I never achieved again. So for me, like the longer it takes for Bitcoin to go to 1 million, the better, because it gives me more time to accumulate. So I think that's should be the mindset. Like. Try to stack as much BTC, because we'll get harder and harder to get those coins.
Absolutely. It's the craziest thing being convicted on Bitcoin, because you get kind of excited when the price goes up. Like I remember when the price went from 90,000 to 109, that small period of time, and I was like so excited. And then the immediate feeling after that excitement was, oh man, I can't get as much Bitcoin. And so like, to be honest, on my side of things, like I don't care where the price is going in the near term. I just hope that it comes down a little more so that I can buy some more. So if we see a 25% drop or a 20% drop, like I get excited, because I'm just like hitting that buy button as hard as I can, turning on all my miners. I'm like, let's go.
I think the slower the build up, the better. That gives us more time. But
for sure. Well, enough about price. This is not a price podcast. We don't really.
No,
I was just curious to kind of hear your thoughts, because you said that you were kind of an analyst in that sense. I really want to talk about mining. So as you got into Bitcoin mining in 2020, is that correct?
2021. Yeah.
2021. Okay, so you've been in the industry for a couple of years now. It's been a full cycle for you.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how has the mining industry changed from your perspective in the last cycle?
The last cycle. Yeah, well, I mean, the, the Bitcoin mining space is just evolving so quickly, like we recently crossed the 1 zettahash mark, right? Which is a very big milestone. And if you think about it, like early 2020, we were still at 100 exahashes. So that's a 10x of the network, which is really, really impressive. But if you go back to 2020 and you look at all the changes that we've seen, I mean, the increase in efficiency or the efficiency improvements have been tremendously on the ASIC level. The amount of sites that have been built out, the type of cooling, you start to see now more standardization and similarities to traditional data centers in the form factor of these machines. The monitoring software has evolved enormously, so it's way easier to automate and to optimize how to run your facility. But also these use cases have been going through an enormous development, like the demand response we've been seeing in especially in Texas, but also other places in the world. The heat reuse. There's so many aspects of mining that have really developed and evolved, and I think we can really speak about a mature industry now. While 5 years ago, like I think we were started to become an industry. So a lot has happened in that sense.
It's wild to me because the industry is so competitive and there's so many people vying for attention and for hash rate. You would think that the industry's been developed for a long time, but if you really think about it, the mining industry as it stands today, from my perspective at least, it's very young. I mean, we didn't get ASICs until 2013. And even then, those ASICs were very slow, not very efficient, very cumbersome. And today, we're getting new rigs on the market, 700, 800 terahash a machine. They run at, 6,000 watts. They're very power dense. So, you say that it's a very young industry and it's just now starting to gain traction, and it almost doesn't jibe with the understanding that like it is the way that it is. I don't know if that makes sense the way that I'm saying it, but it's just wild to me because we're moving so quickly. I'm really interested to see where we're going to be over the next few cycles and what hardware will look like at that time. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I think since that efficiency has been improved so much, like last year we dove below that 20 joules per terahash, and now we've seen the first announcement of the machines below 10 joules per terahash, probably hitting the market in Q1 of next year. So that the efficiency improvements on the ASIC level is gonna flatten out more and more. And I think the innovation we're going to see is going to be more on the operational level. So in order to stand out and be able to be competitive, you really need to optimize the efficiency at the operational level. So I'm looking forward to see what kind of developments we're going to see there. I think cooling obviously has already been going through enormous innovation, but we'll see more and more optimization through software and AI integration as well. Like I believe we'll move more towards that predicting whether a machine is going to break and optimizing that maintenance and repair of the machines. So
yeah, on that point of maintenance, repair, optimizing the machines, upgrading efficiency over time, what are your thoughts on Proto's new rig? Because this is, so from my perspective, this is an advancement that the industry really needs, is because currently when you want to upgrade a machine or your fleet, you got to upgrade the entire fleet. And a lot of times you have to actually upgrade the cooling infrastructure, the racking infrastructure, and all these different things. Whereas the new design for Proto's rig is like you actually only have to if you build out a fleet of proto rigs, you only have to upgrade the actual hash boards themselves and not the full hardware, the racking space, the cooling. What are your thoughts on Proto's new rig? And do you think that that's the future, or do you think it's kind of just a fad right now?
No, I think it will be the future because there's more and more competition to Bitmain. Bitmain has been the biggest market or most dominant in the marketplace. Let's say they have 75 or more percent of the market share.
Mm-hmm.
And by new players coming into the market, you see that more the end user or the operator is being considered when designing these machines. And that's what you see with Proto a lot. They did a lot of investigation. They talked to a lot of miners, not only big miners, but also smaller miners. And they really took that operator perspective as a first principle, which I think is great and will increase the level of quality of these machines and how easy it will be to work with these units.
Yeah, well, I'll be the first one to say, like, even though I use Bitmain rigs exclusively, I would love to see somebody come in and eat Bitmain's lunch. At the end of the day, I think that they've had too much market share. They've had too much control over the mining industry from a closed source perspective and a centralized perspective. Bitcoin's core ethos is decentralization. And when you get to the mining industry, the aspect of mining itself, and we're not decentralized, we're not open source, I think that really kind of has a bad look for the Bitcoin industry as a whole, when mining is the backbone of the Bitcoin industry, the Bitcoin ecosystem, and the Bitcoin mining industry is not even as decentralized as it could be. That's not great, And so for me, the factor of Proto's rig being interchangeable, being swappable, having more ability to grow and expand over time, that's great. But my favorite aspect of it is the open source aspect of the rig itself, allowing for other competitors to come in and build off of that exact same platform is not only important, but I almost think it's imperative for growth of the Bitcoin network. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree, and I mean we've seen so many innovations come from home miners and from people at the operational level. So I think it makes a lot of sense, and it will improve the quality of the rigs. A lot of innovation is driven by smaller companies and individuals. So I think it's only smart to make it open source.
Yeah, completely agree with that. All right, so let's shift gears a little bit. I want to talk specifically about digital mining solutions, your bread and butter. So you got involved in 2021. What was the catalyst exactly that made you think, you know what, I'm gonna build a mining company that helps miners get into mining?
Yeah, what it started, is a couple of things. Like I said, I always wanted to do something in the Bitcoin space, and I saw an opportunity in Bitcoin mining. At that time, I migrated to Argentina, so I moved from the Netherlands to Argentina because my wife is Argentine and she lived in the Netherlands for a long time. So as a family, we moved to another country. And at that time, I started doing consulting or working as an independent, continuing a bit what I was doing before, but as an independent. And I had 2 good contracts, and I went to the Netherlands to extend these contracts and to come back with these extended contracts, back to Argentina, but they were not extended. So I left Argentina with 2 jobs, and I came back and I had nothing. And then I got COVID, so I had 10 days of quarantine, and I had a lot of time to think and listen to a podcast. I don't even remember which podcast, but the person said that you should, if you try something in business, you should try it for 90 days and then decide whether you continue or not. And that for me, like, made that decision a bit more
A little bit more
achievable. Or
concrete for you.
yeah, I was like, okay, it doesn't feel that big to start something for myself, and so I started those 90 days. And what I did is I did market research because in my previous job I would do market research, identify opportunities, and then start building programs and activities around that, matching companies with the opportunities that we identified. So I started doing this research, and back then there were not a lot of information outlets out there. So I noticed like, okay, this is maybe something I can add value. So I started writing a newsletter, a weekly newsletter about Bitcoin mining. So 1 week I look into mining economics and then go over Bitcoin price, difficulty, hash rate, hash price, look at the machine pricing, various metrics. And then the other week I look into to innovations in the space, trends and innovations. So that's newsletter I use to position myself in the industry, and I used it as a lead generator. And then my core business is to provide advice and consulting to companies. Um, and that newsletter has grown and grown and grown, and now we have over 14,000 subscribers, and it's becoming or it became a revenue stream in itself. So it became one of my business activities, and yeah, next to that, I focus on the consulting, and a part of that consulting is also brokerage. So matchmaking operators and builders of sites with investors.
Yeah, congratulations first off on hitting 14,000 subscribers to your newsletter. That's
Thank you.
impressive. I know the feeling of being able to do something that you love and succeeding at it, and then actually getting paid to do that. So that's awesome. I'm happy for you. One thing that we pride ourselves here at Bitcoin Mining World and the Build a Mine podcast is education, and so I think this is something that you would agree on, is that, people who want to start investing, whether you're investing in stocks and bonds, the real estate market, or Bitcoin mining, it doesn't really matter. You need to be educated on what you're investing in. If you're going to build a Bitcoin mining operation, whether you build it at 10 kilowatts or, 1 megawatt or even 50 megawatts, you need to understand the different dynamics and the metrics that play into the market that you're trying to invest in. So
Definitely, yeah.
from your perspective as a strategic partner, someone who helps to combine, the mining side of it to the partners and the investors and all that stuff, how do you see these different moving parts kind of playing together?
What do you mean by moving parts? The education and or the
So
moving parts within the
you've got multiple moving parts. You have
yeah.
the fluctuation in the price of the machines. You have the fluctuation in the Bitcoin price itself, and then you actually have the fluctuation in hash price. So you have all these different moving parts, and they all paint a picture of what it means to be a Bitcoin miner. So how do you kind of explain to your potential clients or your clients how these different trends work together to paint the picture for them on Bitcoin mining?
Yeah, so through the newsletter, and also like we develop articles and reports for third parties. That's where like we pull these metrics together and provide a logical story, right? Like for example, in the summer you see hash rate going down. That has to do with the curtailments because of heat waves in North America, for example. So trying to show the news and what's happening in the world, and then relate it to whether it's price or hash rates growth or machine prices or machine trends. That's what we focus on. But also like this writing of this newsletter. It's not only to educate others, it's also by writing I educate myself, and I keep on learning, and I'm up to date, and that helps when advising companies. And also yeah, these numbers and metrics that we look at, that we use to benchmark projects that we work with. So if we have clients that are looking to fundraise, for example, we help them with the pitch decks, and and their business case, and we benchmark their project against other projects to position that investment opportunity for their fundraising in such a way that it's gonna lead to successful financing, let's say.
Mm-hmm. So are there specific types of strategic insights that you share with your clients? Obviously understanding the metrics like hash price and equipment price and stuff is important, but are there other metrics like where to purchase the energy, where to build mining sites, or what strategic insights does your company help with your clients?
Yeah, so usually it's looking at the goals, starting with why you're mining, and then peel it down from there. Let's say, whether mining makes sense is such uh, a depends question. Let's say it depends on location, your own situation, your risk profile, the access you have to capital, to other markets. So yeah, that's what we help with, and by seeing a lot of projects, we're able to spot the red flags and also the opportunities and why a certain project might succeed.
Mm-hmm. So you definitely have a lot of other competitors within the space, who are trying to do the exact same thing. What, in your opinion, what sets digital mining solutions apart from like others in the space?
Yeah, so I don't know if there's a lot of competitors. I think there's not a lot of market analysts out there that do what we do. There's other newsletters out there, but I think we're just a bit different than others, and a big difference between us and maybe the competitors, if you like to call them that way, is that we are independent. So we're not tied to any big company. So we're not part of a big miner, or we're not part of a software ecosystem or a hosting company. So I think that's a different position, let's say. So we work together with companies, and not so much for one company. So that independence, I think, sets us apart and allows us also to provide objective inputs, let's say.
Gives you a little bit more flexibility within your clients' understanding of Bitcoin, I guess.
Yeah, and also like our sweet spot, I would say, is not the public miners. I mean, I know a lot of them. I look at how they conduct business, and that's also something I benchmark against. But the sweet spot is more those miners that are running a 5 to I would say max 50 megawatts, because that smaller medium-sized company has more the need for a profile or service that we offer, and doesn't have it necessarily in-house. So I think that's maybe another thing that sets us apart. And also we have a broad range of services. So we have that market intelligence. So we do master classes and written articles for third parties, but we also help startups, like reviewing their business cases, in investment plans, or investor pitch decks, etc. And then we have companies that are scaling, that we're helping out with analyzing their investment opportunities, doing due diligence, that kind of things. And something that has been what I've been working on a lot, especially this year, is bridging that gap between us miners and then the traditional finance. Like we like to think in hash price and ASIC prices and difficulty. Like it's and a lot of these terminologies, they're not common to more traditional finance. So being able to translate this jargon, let's say, into more TradFi metrics is something that I see a big need, because that there's more institutional interest in investing in mining.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes a ton of sense. It's all information that people who, want to get into the industry, whether, they want to invest in an actual Bitcoin mining operation or they want to do something a little less hands-on, you need to have the information, you need to have the metrics, and not a lot of people understand where to get it or even how to absorb it. So being able to provide those master classes and the different types of education, as well as, applying the strategic partnerships, I think that's a very important aspect of what you're doing for the industry.
Yeah.
I want to,
And maybe to add to that, like it's also in many cases we compare it to an investment that's the potential investor understands, right? So if they come from the real estate sector, then we make a comparison to the real estate and how it
yeah, you're meeting your clients where they're at instead of trying to overload them with information that they don't understand. You're trying to provide it in a way that like they already kind of see that. So I think that's, it's very similar to orange pilling normies into Bitcoin. It's like you have to meet them where they're at and explain the terminology in a way that they can understand. It's from their perspective, not from outside their perspective, and it helps them shift into the right frame of mind, I guess.
Yeah. And it's in talking about that orange pilling, like with orange pilling, it's also in many cases just buy some Bitcoin and then you start looking at the numbers and you start learning about Bitcoin. It's the same with mining. Like if there's clients that have the ambition to set up a company, I would say like just start right away with 1 to 5 machines. It doesn't need to be much, but once you have your machine running and you see those sats flowing in, then there's something magical that happens and you start going into that rabbit hole yourself. So having skin in the game, even if it's a little bit, that helps a lot in understanding the industry and triggers you to learn about it.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Whatever you're trying to get involved in, like you actually have to start. You can't just sit there and watch podcasts and read books and think that all of a sudden you're going to be a Bitcoin miner. Like you actually have to buy a Bitcoin miner. It doesn't matter if it's a BitAxe or it's a full size 5 kilowatt machine. Like you need to buy one, plug it in, understand how it works, tinker around with it, and then you start to develop the understanding and the insights that it takes to be a full-fledged Bitcoin miner. And it doesn't happen in a day. It takes a little bit of time. So, on the point of becoming a Bitcoin miner, getting into Bitcoin mining, I really want to talk to you about your thoughts on timing and entrance into Bitcoin mining. We just discussed about getting off zero, getting some skin in the game, buying a Bitcoin miner. But from the perspective of markets, there's a right time to get into Bitcoin mining and there's a wrong time to get into Bitcoin mining. And I'd like to hear your thoughts on the two things.
Yeah, so I think a big make or break in your investment is obviously the machine pricing, right? And we talked about what's different maybe from previous cycles. Right now, we see that the machine pricing is relatively low. So from that standpoint, it's a good moment to enter the market. So when I bought my first Bitcoin miner, I bought it at a horrible time, and I considered my tuition into the industry, let's say. But that first ASIC that I bought, I never got the ROI on that. So the entry point from ASIC price standpoint is very important. And then obviously you have the halving, like getting in right before a halving is maybe not the right time. Like now we are almost 18 months past the halving of last year, and like the dust has settled a bit, what you can expect. So I think investing in the halving year itself, or at least not just before the halving, that I would say is not the smartest. So timing the market is obviously very important, but I do think like with the machines starting to reach the limits of efficiency improvements, the lifespan of these machines from an economical standpoint or financial standpoint starts to become longer, right? So there's been a generation of machines that after 2 maybe 3 years they became ready to be replaced and to be upgraded. And I think now, if you get into mining now, probably these machines will run a bit longer because the staying ahead of the competition is not going to be as easy as just buying new machines. It's going to require more. So that's why I think, from a price and efficiency perspective, we are now at a good place.
And on that point about lifespans of the machines, I think the cooling solution has a lot to play into that. If you get an air-cooled miner, you have a lot of dust and particulates flying through that machine, and that has a tendency to degrade the lifespan of the machine. Whereas now we're seeing immersion units and hydro units, so they're cooled without air, which means they're generally closed loop systems. So they're not introducing all these different particulates. In your opinion, as someone who helps people get into mining at scale, what are the pros and cons of the different cooling solutions other than the lifespan of the machines? And are you looking at particular cooling solutions, or do you kind of try to tailor something that's better for each individual client?
Yeah, so the pros and the cons, you mentioned that the air cooled ones have more exposure to these to the environment, let's say, but also the liquid cooled, so whether it's immersion or hydro cooled machines, the cooling is more consistent, so the chips or the hash boards are not exposed to big temperature fluctuations, and as a consequence of that, you have less damage and less repairs. So in general, these hydro cooled, immersion cooled machines are more stable and require less repairs. Also, they don't produce that much sound, right? Sometimes they're almost not producing any sound. So from that aspect, it can be that if you're looking to invest in a site, there might be limitations to the sound that require you to invest in immersion or hydro. Obviously, hydro and immersion is a more expensive build out. So also here, it's always going to depend on the site, on the opportunity that you're looking to invest in. If you go to more riskier market, or you put more, you have a higher risk. Let's say I would always put less capital to risk. So there I would always start with air cooled and maybe even older generation machines.
I really like the immersion mining side of the cooling solutions. Hydro is really expensive, but it has its pros compared to immersion, just because it doesn't have the oil. It's a lot cleaner. It's not quite as messy. But when comparing the two, both of them are significantly hash rate dense. You could get a rack, when it comes to hydro especially, you can get a rack that's 2 feet wide by 2 feet wide by 8 feet tall, and you're pushing out almost a megawatt of hash rate in this one small rack. And I could be off on that just a little bit because I'm not an industrial miner, but nonetheless, you have an extremely power dense unit in a very small space. And so when it comes to building out these large facilities, air cooled has its pros to when it comes to price, but I think that's the only thing that air cooled has compared to hydro and immersion. Do you agree, or would you argue that?
I think I would agree on that.
Yeah. So on this topic of location, different locations have different power prices. They have different environmental factors. What are your thoughts on the most strategic locations for a person to build or buy a mining site?
Yeah, so most strategic is also it's again a depends answer. I mean, what's your goal? If you want to be very hands-on in the operation, and you're based in the States, yeah, it doesn't make much sense to start in Ethiopia. Are you willing to move to Ethiopia, you know?
Hmm.
uh, if you are willing to have a more hands-off approach and you find that right partner that you trust and that provides a good service, then maybe it does make sense to go to Ethiopia. I think in general, yeah, the US can be considered as a very safe location, let's say, especially now with the Trump administration. There's been a lot of regulatory clarity. Um, so yeah, I would say if you want to play it safe, either start in the US or perhaps Scandinavia or the UAE.
Hmm.
But yeah, sometimes you need to pay a premium for that. Let's say,
Hmm.
like in the States, it's usually a bit more expensive if you start mining there. So it's going to depend on the risk profile you have and where you're located, how much you want to be involved in the operation itself.
Yeah, it's never a one size fits all situation. It's very much like tailoring the specific location and size of the operation to your risk profile and to, your access to capital, I should say. Um, when looking at scale Bitcoin mining operations, let's say 1 to 50 megawatts, and somebody who has access to capital, what size, let's say they've never mined Bitcoin before. They understand what Bitcoin is, but they want to get involved in Bitcoin mining, whether it's hands off or hands on. At what scale would you kind of try to influence a person to get into? Do you have them start with 1 megawatt? Do you have them start with 5 megawatts? What's the best opportunity for someone in that situation?
I think most good site opportunities start as of 5 megawatts. I would say
Mhm.
5 to 10 megawatts is a good entry point, but I would never start building out 10 megawatts right away. I would always run an MVP or a pilot, like install that first container or build out that first facility. Uh, yeah, go get your supply chain in order. Like it's very likely that you're running into challenges, so it's better to run a pilot at a smaller scale and yeah, really um, note down or register all procedures, all the challenges you run into before you start scaling.
Mhm.
uh, I think once you have that experience, whether you build out one more megawatt after that or 10, that's not going to make a huge difference.
Mhm.
But yeah, you're going to run into issues that you cannot foresee. You can think of a lot, but there's going to be issues that you cannot foresee, and I believe it's better to do that with the pilot, and then all the lessons you take, all the lessons learned, and then you scale.
Yeah. Do you think, okay, so let's say someone's starting with a pilot of 5 megawatts and wants to eventually get into like 10, 50, even all the way up to 50 megawatts. Is it important for them to kind of like centralize into one location, so they might find a location that has access to 10 megawatts of power and they start with 5 and then build out from there? Or is this something where they find a place that's got access to 5 megawatts, they build out slowly to a 5 megawatt site, that's their pilot, and then find another 5 to 10 megawatt site? What do you think the best way to do that is?
I think most interesting would always be like find a site that has additional capacity, so you can grow at that same site. Um, Obviously, from a risk perspective, you can think of yeah, mining in different jurisdictions because you spread a bit of a risk. Um, but yeah, one of the most time-consuming parts of finding a site is yeah, building a relationship with the utility and finding the right location. So if you have that, after that, a build out can be done in 3 months if there's no big hiccups. Like
Mhm.
but getting to yeah, to a good power purchase agreement and buying the land or leasing the land, getting a lease agreement, those uh, those processes can take a long time. So if you have a site, like ideally you would want to have a site where you can run a pilot and then scale it at a later stage.
Yeah, I guess that makes a lot of sense. All right, so we're starting to get to the top of the hour. I want to start kind of wrapping up. I think we did a really good job of talking about getting into Bitcoin mining and how your company helps to facilitate in that endeavor for most clients. And I'll definitely share the information on how to get a hold of you and get a hold of your company in the show notes, so people have that opportunity if they so choose. But this is the last section here is going to be an opinions based, so I just want to kind of hear your thoughts on some of these questions. You mentioned in the beginning, you mentioned AI just a little bit and the push towards AI data centers. I want to expound on that just a little bit. So what are your thoughts on this AI push that we've been seeing over the last year? And do you think it's a good thing for the Bitcoin network, or do you think it's a bad thing?
I think what we've been seeing is makes sense. I mean, it's most of these bigger miners that have access to big power lots and capital that jumping into this opportunity because they in many cases can make more money from these types of deals. So I understand that these big public miners do it. AI HPC is not for everyone. You need to have a premium location. You need to have a stable network. You need to have access to fiber. The sites that you build out require more space than Bitcoin mining sites. The build out itself is way more expensive, so you need to have that access to capital, which is often easier to get in the AI HPC sector than Bitcoin mining. So it's not for everybody, but you can see that these bigger players they jump into it, and I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing for Bitcoin mining. I think the competition for power will push miners to the edges, to those places where energy is stranded, where energy is underutilized, where maybe there's a need for demand response or heavier curtailment, let's say, because these AI HPC computing or data centers often need to be online 99 point up to 5 nines behind the comma. So I think it will promote the decentralization of Bitcoin mining. It will promote that unique application of being a flexible load. So I think it's at the end of the day it's a positive. And I also believe that we'll see more and more Bitcoin mining being integrated into these HPC data centers. So now you've seen miners pivoting to AI HPC, but I think we'll see the other way around as well. Traditional data centers or high performance compute data centers, AI data centers, integrating Bitcoin mining as a flexible layer that allows them to scale faster and also to get access to those power contracts that do require a certain amount of curtailment.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting dynamic. Let's look at like Riot, Mara, some of these really large industrial pubcos, 1 gigawatt, 10 gigawatt facilities, massive facilities. I mean, they have campuses that are miles long, just of straight Bitcoin mining equipment. As they move further into AI HPC data centers, I think they kind of back off of Bitcoin mining a little bit, because when they have that stable load capacity, when they have the access to fiber, when they have all of these components that AI HPC needs, I think they start to slow down on the Bitcoin mining because AI is more profitable. So, from my perspective, and I'm just a pleb out here, I don't know anything. So, but from my perspective, I think what that does for the Bitcoin mining network is it reduces the demand that the Bitcoin mining network has. It reduces hash rate, which in turn increases the profitability of all these smaller miners, which are, as you said, decentralized. They're, location agnostic. They're utilizing stranded power in a lot of different places. So I personally think that strengthens the Bitcoin network, and it makes it a lot more decentralized for the smaller guys. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I would agree with it, but I don't know if hash rate is gonna decrease. Like I
Okay.
see that a slowdown in growth. That's what
Okay.
I would say. Yeah, and it in the end it pushes Bitcoin mining also to other markets, right?
Yeah.
It will make Bitcoin more of a global Bitcoin mining more of a global industry than it already is. It's already becoming very global. So yeah.
Yeah, no, it's interesting to see. I'm curious. We kind of talked about that and the trends. The AI HPC trend and how it evolves over the next few years. But do you see the Bitcoin mining industry as a whole evolving and changing over the next 10 years, say? Or do you think it kind of stays similar and it starts to plateau as we hit a certain point?
No, I think right now there's still a lot of Bitcoin miners that have Bitcoin mining as their core business. I think in the future we'll see more and more other types of companies that integrate Bitcoin mining into their business as an energy management tool, whether it's an energy generator or an HPC data center or maybe a greenhouse that reuses the heat. I think you'll see more and more of these Bitcoin mining operations being integrated into other types of businesses. So that's I think going to be the bigger trend in the coming decade, let's say, especially if we go to another halving and margins might be even further depressed or compressed. Yeah, we need to optimize the operational cost and have other types of revenue in order to hold on to that Bitcoin.
Yeah, on that point of compressing margins, do you think it still makes sense to mine Bitcoin at scale in 10 years?
Yeah, at what scale do you, it's
So,
gonna
I
be,
mean, at scale is, 5 to 10 megawatts, solely Bitcoin mining, not integrated into other businesses. I see heat reuse growing significantly and allowing for people to integrate, Bitcoin mining as an energy distributor or capacitor, for lack of a better word. But
yeah.
Bitcoin mining as the business, do you see it still being a viable solution for people, or is it something that starts to kind of go by the wayside?
Yeah, I think yeah, you have to be smart in order to stay profitable. So and that's gonna mean diversify your revenue stream, whether it's by selling heat or by maybe participating in demand response. I think the days of just connecting to the grid and yeah, do nothing special, let's say, are over. But I think that 5 to 10 megawatt sites, those will be around for a while. If you also look at the district heating systems in Scandinavia, for example, those are usually not mega sites. Those are
Yeah.
usually a couple of megawatts because that's what fit those district heating systems. So I think the mega miners like the 100 megawatts plus sites that will see less and less because of the AI competition, but also because of the profitability of these sites. We'll see miners become more and more sophisticated and like I said before, like integrating other revenue streams in order to be able to hold on to that asset that they're mining.
Yeah, so you mentioned that you were from the Netherlands, and this is something that I've had a couple of conversations with some people who are specifically building out district heating systems up there in Finland and other parts of the Netherlands and Scandinavia. And it's so exciting to me when I think about this decentralization aspect of Bitcoin mining and then providing heat and Bitcoin mining as a service for the residents of these areas. I think this is super exciting. I just got out of like last July, I got back from Bitcoin Alaska, and this is something very similar. Is like in Alaska, it's actually the largest state in the union, in the 50 states, and it has the most energy reserves than any other state in the union. You know, when people think about oil, they think about Texas, but in reality, Alaska has more oil and gas than any other state in the union. The problem that they have is that they don't have, like, they have all this gas, but they don't have any infrastructure to offload that gas to different parts of the communities, to the lower 48. They don't have anywhere to take that gas. So the gas gets pumped back into the ground. And so what's exciting to me is, like, when you think about these rural communities in the North Slope of Alaska and different parts of Alaska, being able to utilize the heat generated from Bitcoin miners that are utilizing the energy from the gas that is just being pumped back into the ground, they're reducing the liability of the state and increasing the profitability of the state, and also increasing the living standards of the citizens in the state. So it's this really cool revolving virtuous cycle that I really like to see. And that's how I see the Bitcoin mining industry evolving as a whole over the next 5 to 10 years, is you see more of these small 1 to 5 megawatt facilities that are utilizing the energy that is stranded, and then also generating heat for communities that really need it. And this allows them to grow food. It allows them to develop different types of energy markets around the Bitcoin mining. And so that's what's got me really excited.
Yeah, and I mean, if I listen to that, I also immediately thought of the announcement of Laos the other day, like that they're building out dams, and they, if there's no off-taker or no distribution yet, you can use Bitcoin mining to make money and pay or finance that distribution, or monetize that underutilized asset until the demand picks up. So I see that as a very future-proof use case. Let's say Bitcoin mining equipment being moved from one place to the other, where new energy projects are being built out.
Absolutely, 100%. Well, Nico, this has been a lot of fun. I have one final question for you, and I'll wait till the very, very end. Before I get to my question, I do want to say I appreciate your time today. Go ahead and take a little bit of time to tell the audience where they can find you, and shill anything that you have coming up or that you want to talk about.
Sure. So I'm active on X and LinkedIn. So you can find me there, or just go to the website digitalminingsolutions.tech. And I think the best way to get to know me and Digital Mining Solutions is by signing up to the newsletter, which is for free, and we push out a lot of information. So in worst case scenario, you learn something. So
can't go wrong there.
You can find me through those channels. So
awesome. We'll have all of that linked in the show notes as well. Guys, go read the newsletter. He has 14,000 subscribers. Let's get him to 20,000 subscribers. You can never go wrong with learning a little bit every single week or every single day. It's, the best way to grow and invest in yourself as a person. So Nico, this is my favorite question to ask every audience member. You might be familiar, you might not. My final question to you is, what does Bitcoin mean to you?
Yeah, so I knew you were going to ask this question, but what does it mean to me? I think through Bitcoin, I learned a lot in my life, and I've learned about what money is, macroeconomics, like I said in the beginning, but also the importance of being self-sovereign, and with that comes also a certain responsibility, right? So I think Bitcoin is very important to me. Like, it's something I work with. I went from a trader to an investor to receiving a paycheck in Bitcoin, having Bitcoin on my company's balance sheet. So it's really big part of my life. but in the end, it's also just a number, right? So I've learned to enjoy the gains and know that if you don't do anything with your Bitcoin, then in the end, it's a number on a screen. And most important in my life is my family and my friends. So I think that's the obsession for Bitcoin is good, but it should be to a certain extent. So finding
I
that
love
right
that.
balance. Yeah.
I absolutely love that. Bitcoin is a tool at the end of the day, and if you
Yeah.
never use the tool, then it's useless. You can look at it, but what's the point of having something to look at if you can't utilize it for what it's meant to be for? And what I say all the time is that we as human beings, we trade our time and our energy, which is equivalent to our life force, for money. And that money is what we use to live better lives, more quality lives. And how the way that looks for everybody is different. We're all individuals. So whether you value family and friends and personal experiences, or you value success and money and whatnot, however you define success, you want to put your money there. And so if you never spend your Bitcoin, there's no point in buying and holding it at the end of the day. It's meant to be a tool for you to get the things that you want in life. And so I love the way that you described that, man. Just thank you for this conversation. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you for the invite. Really enjoyed it.
Absolutely. So stay in the studio. I'm gonna close this up, but we'll talk afterwards. Okay.
All right.
All right, guys, this has been the Build a Mine podcast with Nico Smid from Digital Mining Solutions. Definitely check out the show notes if you want to get a hold of him. I'll have his X in there. I'll have Digital Mining Solutions website as well, and the link to the newsletter. So join the newsletter. It's full of information. I highly recommend it. And we will see you guys next time on the Build a Mine podcast.